England retreated from Budapest, beaten 7-1, their heaviest ever international defeat. But they did reach the quarter-finals of the World Cup in Switzerland, no mean performance, before going out to Uruguay in a splendid game in Bâle. Scotland were the only other home country to qualify, but according to that incorrigible character Tommy Docherty, they were beaten before they arrived.
Diabolical, actually, disastrous. We were so ill prepared. We didn't know the type of opposition that we were going to meet. We'd never watched them play, we'd never seen them play, we didn't do our homework. And I would say we were probably the most ill-prepared nation at that particular time that ever took part in the World Cup competition. We took 13 players there. I don't know how many were officially allowed, but we took 13, and you know, you'd think it was the Irish team that had gone, because of the 13 players, 2 were goalkeepers. So, you know, there's no substitute for an injury or anything like that. We thought, well, that was going to be a danger spot, the goalkeeping, so we took 2, and if you like, 11 outfield players, and we did very well against Austria in Zurich. We lost by a dicey goal, which was shown on television afterwards that the ball hadn't crossed the line, but we were very pleased with the result, and as much because Austria were a very highly rated team then. And yet, surprisingly, after that match, Andy Beattie, who was our team manager, he had a lot of differences of opinion with Sir George Graham, who was a dictator in Scottish football and who did a tremendous amount for the game. And we had a situation where Andy and the team manager with the players, we stayed in one hotel, and we had a situation where the officials, the Scottish officials, stayed in another hotel, and any time Andy had to meet them, George Graham left the hotel and went 50 yards, and Andy left our hotel and went 50 yards to meet him for whatever confrontation he had with Sir George. And of course, in Andy's case, the whole situation was, under those conditions, Andy found it impossible to carry on, and he threatened, of course, and did resign. I think, in fact, he resigned in the main street somewhere where he met Sir George Graham. We'd only one game left after that, was with Uruguay, and it didn't really affect us a tremendous amount because we felt that we had to get on with the job anyway and play the match. And of course, when the game came with Uruguay, they really sent us back to our school days. You know, we were so far behind when we saw these people. We come out together, the 2 teams, and we had these very, very thick, heavy, long-sleeve woolen Scottish shirts and long shorts and thick stockings, you know, Mansfield Hotspur boots. There was no commercialism then, and the Uruguayan team looked immaculate. They had sort of thin shirts, short-sleeve shirts, short shorts, and no shin pads on, and they looked absolutely streamlined. They looked on another planet in comparison to us, and of course they played accordingly. As they know now, you know, they beat us 7-0. They didn't beat us 7-0, actually, they murdered us. They had marvellous players like Finney, who later went to Italy, and Andrade, the winger, and a little fella called Borges in the left wing. It was very, very warm in Bâle that day, and, you know, we were really in the sun. And one significant factor was at half-time, when we went in for our break, every one of us went straight into the shower with our kit on, boots, the whole lot, you know, just right under the cold shower and just absolutely soaked. We had no time for a team talk or anything, and it was as simple as that. It was just a case of getting a cold shower and getting back out again and go through all the turmoil all over again, and we got absolutely paralysed. It was embarrassing.
English football was now crossing some interesting frontiers. Its clubs were pitting their quality and strength against the best in Europe. Arsenal went to the Soviet Union and was spanked 5-0 by Moscow Dynamo before a crowd of 90,000. A month later, another top Soviet club, Spartak, visited Britain and beat Arsenal 2-1 at Highbury. But then they took on Wolverhampton Wanderers at Molineux, and Wolves, fashioned and inspired by Stanley Cullis, were a formidable side.
I make it now that there are 5 minutes left for play, plus anything added on for stoppages, and Wolves are still leading by 1-0-0. Shorthouse takes the kick, puts it away upfield, and is turned into touch by the Russian right back halfway inside the Russian half, and it's a Wolves ball. Wolves take it, put it away down the wing to young Smith. Smith now cutting in, squares the long one right across the Spartak goal. Hancock gets to it, rests it down, can't shoot, trying to get past 2, went past now. He is right through, he's shooting, he's scored! He's been right through the lot of them. Past Bryon, Hancock's to score. that news will please his father, who's ill, couldn't come to the match, and is listening at home, and also his mother, who's there too. That's Johnny Hancock's number 2 for Wolves after 41 minutes play of the second half. Well, he just wriggled his way through like an eel there, and finally held on to it. Dribble pass, now he's away again, sends the ball up through to Swinburne. No, tricks his man first, holds it, swings it. No, he won't pass the Broadbent. He's drawing the defence, puts it neatly inside his man this time. No, he held on too long. Well, that's Wolverhampton 2, Spartak North now. There comes Neto, the left half for the ball. And out comes Stewart again and takes the ball clean away from Ilian, the left winger. Lobs it away upfield. A good header forward to Hancock. Here goes Swinburne. He's on the side and he's racing through. He shoots. And he scores! Score! Swinburne, a beauty!
Wolves won by 4-0. Their scorers, Johnny Hancock's with 2, Roy Swinburne and Dennis Wilshaw. And just 3 weeks later, Hungary's leading club, Honvéd, were at Molineux. Honvéd with Puskas and half the Hungarian side, which had embarrassed England. A night, perhaps, for revenge.
It looks to me as though the Hungarians are getting very rattled. They're leading by 2-1, admittedly on conditions that do not agree with them. But they're looking very much more dangerous than they did in the first half. And finally, they've got the ball into touch. And it's a Wolves ball, a neat back healer there by Swinburne. Swinburne through to Broadbent. Broadbent can't do very much with it. Comes out now to Koshish. Koshish to the inside right, and he chips that ball away out towards his right winger, but behind him. And their forwards are starting to get rattled by the speed of the Wolves players. There's no doubt at all about it. There's a beautiful tackle there by Wilshaw. Wilshaw, a long one down the centre. Hunter Smith. Smith's cutting up now into the Honvéd penalty area. Squares in. Who's going to put it in? Wilshaw! Swinburne! A goal! And Swinburne's got number 2. A lovely one by Swinburne. Yes, as Hungarians were certainly getting rattled. 2-2 now, with 15 minutes left to play.
That was a beautiful goal. Started by Ron Flowers, a magnificent tackle on the halfway line. He takes the ball through. He sent it 30 yards forward to Smith, the outside left. A very quick centre, and there was 2 Wolves waiting in the goal mouth. Swinburne got to it and headed into the net. A magnificent goal. And Hungary now are just about, well, they're nothing like as speedy as they were. They're going back on defence. Not even 3 forwards that they had in the first half are up. They haven't. Williams has touched the ball twice in the last quarter of an hour. And these Wolves are putting up a magnificent fight. They're still going as fresh now as they were when they started. And I must say, it's the Honvéd that are giving way first. They're pushing, they're taking advantage of everything. The goalkeeper's even dropping the ball in the mud so that it sticks and he can waste time. The half-backs are walking upfield with the ball and making them push back. But those Wolves are getting at them, and here they are again coming through.
Here come Wolves again, right across the centre line. Swooping up through Smith. Smith down the centre, right through to Hancock. He shoots. He scored! He scored! He scored! Hancock has scored, number 3!
Wolves the winners by 3-2, with Swinburne again on the mark, hitting the winner. Wolves were a side of and commitment, a side too with a strong backbone of internationals. And one of them, Dennis Wilshaw, earned himself a line in the record book when England faced Scotland at Wembley in the spring of 1955.
A throw-in for Scotland, about halfway inside the England half on the far side. 28 minutes gone. 17 minutes to go as Riley gives the ball, tries to give it back to Doherty, but Blunstone back helping his defenders, and that has been a feature of the England team. They've been everywhere, forwards, defenders, all over the place, and always in the right position, as Armstrong gives that ball to his right back Meadows. A nice square pass, Meadows down to Lofthouse, Lofthouse back again to Armstrong, Armstrong out to Matthews, Matthews just chasing the ball and flicking it over Davidson's head, and puts it through to Wilshaw. Wilshaw just outside the penalty area, going past Cunningham. He must score. Yes, another goal for Wilshaw. Wilshaw must have scored 4, I think. 3 he has. And that is 29 minutes with another magnificent goal. Each and all of these 6 goals, well, 2 lucky ones, but the other ones clean cut, the product of really devastating football.
Upfield into the Scotland half from Williams. The goal kick nodded sideways into touch for Edwards to take England's throw in 10 yards inside his own half on the far side of the field. He puts it to Wilshaw. Wilshaw surprisingly fit and tremendously brainy. And here he puts one out to Blunston. Blunston finds it headed on by the fullback. He's cutting right in the penalty area. Fires across the goal. There's nobody there, but Lofthouse has raced out and got to it. Turns it back to Stanley Matthews. They're just outside the Scotland penalty area. Up goes Stanley. Dribbles inside his man along the ground. Revy lobs it through to Wilshaw. He scores! And Wilshaw scored a hat-trick in this half. 4, but a hat-trick in this half. That's his third on the run. That was brilliant work by Revy, who didn't get a chance, so he just chipped it forward, and Wilshaw raced out, lunged forward that long left leg, and has now scored his third in this half, making the score England 7, Scotland 1, with now 7 minutes left to play.
England 7, Scotland 2, and a record 4 goals for Wilshaw in matches against the old enemy. Nat Lofthouse with 2 and Don Revie were England's other scorers. And this was the game, by the way, which marked the international debut of Duncan Edwards, at 18 years and 183 days, the youngest ever to play for England. But in the FA Cup, again lighting up the season with its own special kind of drama, it was Newcastle's year yet again. They'd won the old trophy in 1951 and 1952, and now, in 1955, they were back again. Jackie Milburn was also there, of course, and for him, immediately, there was a goal, a headed goal, and for Milburn, that was rare. Alan Clark was in the commentary box.
Corner to Newcastle on this side of the field. 1 goal each, Milburn having scored in the first minute, then the equaliser coming from Johnston, the Manchester City inside forward. Milburn takes the corner, up goes Troutman, who'll get this easily, head high, and throws it up to Revy. Now Revy racing down the right wing on the far side, over the halfway line, well inside the half, inside to Johnston. Revy waiting on the outside, through to Haynes, there on the edge of the penalty area. Can he shoot? No, he can't get a shot in before he falls over himself, and Newcastle scramble the ball upfield to Hannah, who comes well back inside his own half and does find Schooler in the right half position, well upfield. Schooler inside the Manchester City half, long ball to Milburn to race onto. Keeple comes across, finds White. White with the ball, puts it right across the far side, and it's a chance here for Mitchell. He shoots, it's there, it's a goal.
Bobby Mitchell with the second. George Hannah hit the third in Newcastle's 3-1 win, with Bobby Johnston, that dapper little Scottish international, replying for Manchester City. The 1956 Cup final between Manchester City and Birmingham City is remembered for 2 things. Don Revie's role as a deep-lying centre-forward for Manchester City, henceforth known as the Revie Plan, and the courage of their goalkeeper, Bert Trautmann, a former German prisoner of war who played for the last quarter of an hour with a broken neck after one typically daring diving save. Revie's perception and Trautmann's courage added up to a 3-1 victory for Manchester City. Wembley also heard the samba beat of the Brazilians in 1956, Brazil building a side that would win the World Cup twice. But England, that day, were inspired.
Well, now here's Matthews, Stanley Matthews, away up the right wing for England, drawing the ball, taking the ball past the fullback turning on it, twisting, trying to get it away, and finally Stanley's got it and puts it into touch off the fullback. Bit of booing from the crowd because the linesman was finally given the throw in to Brazil, and back comes into touch this time, and quite rightly to England's ball. Stanley Matthews passing it back now to Clayton. Clayton, the right half, a long one. It's being raced for there, and it's just been missed by Taylor. Taylor couldn't quite turn the ball quickly. Stanley Matthews was nearly there, but here comes their left back, Neilton Santos, to push the ball upfield, where Billy Wright pushes it across field there, and I thought with his hands myself. But the referee didn't blow, so perhaps we had a bit of luck there. And he comes upfield now to Taylor. Taylor now across field. A short square one to Haynes. Haynes turns in his tracks. The neat pass forward there meant for Clayton. And Clayton loses that one. He was a bit too far behind that one. He didn't anticipate that one. But there's Jeff Hall now pushing the ball up to Stanley Matthews, now cutting in towards the Brazilian penalty area. Across the ball, the goal goes. The header! A beauty! A beauty there by Colin Garrincha. Would come right in from the left wing, and he nodded that ball clean to the goalkeeper's hands to number 4. Well, Garrincha is a newcomer to England's side, and what a newcomer.
England won by 4-2, with a couple each from Tommy Taylor and Colin Grainger. And now, too, there was a new challenge for English football, European competition for its top clubs. Chelsea, who'd been league champions in 1955, were first to qualify for the European Cup. But on advice from a suspicious football league, they didn't take part. Manchester United, though, were made of sterner stuff. And after they'd won the championship in 1956, Matt Busby couldn't wait to cross the bridge into Europe. And they didn't make a bad start either. They cruised past Anderlecht and Borussia Dortmund in the first 2 rounds, and then faced Atletico Bilbao in the quarter-finals. United lost the first leg in Spain by 5-3, but back at Old Trafford they levelled the scores with goals from Dennis Viollet and Tommy Taylor.
And there's about 6.5 minutes left to play in this match here at Main Road. Free kick to United, taken by Byrne. Headed out to the far side. Very cleverly held by Berry, beats his man, tries to move around on the outside of him, and he runs close to Taylor. Taylor is brought down just on the edge of the penalty area. No, the referee has waved play off. Down went Taylor there, a shout from the crowd, but the referee quickly flung his arms in the air, indicated the play should go on, and on it does to the Bilbao left wing. A through ball there, followed all the way by Mark Jones, put back quite comfortably to goalkeeper Wood. United still lead by 2-0. 6 minutes left to play. Still time for Manchester United to score 1 to save the journey to Paris for the replay on the 13th of March. But Bilbao seem determined right at this stage to hold on to this position and for everybody to move back in defence. Bag clearance there for Mark Jones. Doesn't go very far, but it goes to Edwards, which is a good thing for United. A long one from Edwards down the right wing. Taylor's there. Taylor cuts inside, flicks it forward, still has it. And Taylor turns it back to Berry, shoots, and it's a goal. There it is. A great goal by little Berry.
In the semi-finals, though, United ran into Real Madrid, one of the finest club sides of all time, a side bristling with many of the world's outstanding players. United lost 3-1 in Madrid, but held the great Real to a 2-2 draw at Old Trafford. They were out of Europe, but the experience had been priceless. United's young team were affectionately known as the Busby Babes, among them that prodigy Duncan Edwards, who was already making an important mark at international level.
Scotland won, England won. Ball comes up to centre circle, it's headed down, comes to McCall. McCall with a scissor sort of kick, clears the ball out to Ring, but Hall gets there before him, puts the ball forward. Doherty chases up, gets the ball back to Ring. Ring puts it inside Hall. Hall doubles back, puts the ball into Wright. Wright slips, most unlucky for Wright, but he gets up, and the ball comes back to Ring. Ring coming in, Riley running into position. Hall goes back, Ring bringing the ball up to 18-yard line, he accelerates quickly, but Hall gets a foot to the ball, puts it out of play. A throw-in for Scotland, 4 yards from the corner flag on this side of the field. Ring to Doherty, level of the 18-yard line, left half Doherty puts the ball right across, over a bit too far. Byrne lets it go over his head, turns around, clears it out to Grainger with Caldo coming in beside them. They both go down. Caldo's up first, just on the touchline, puts the ball again to Byrne. It comes back. Caldo still has it. Tackled by Kevin. Kevin takes the ball from him, puts it through to Matthews. Matthews in the middle of the field, coming up, Doherty beside him, puts the ball out to his outside left, who's Finney just now. And Finney coming up with the whole Scottish defence after him, into Matthews, an inside left position. Back again to Finney. And it's Huey who's away across on the right, hoping, getting the ball away from Finney, and left back Byrne comes up, helping his forwards, puts the ball through. McCall misses it, it goes to Matthews, but little Caldo beats Matthews, takes the ball from him, brings it upfield, puts it inside to Fernie. Fernie gets there along with Edwards. Edwards takes the ball from him, coming through in his own, having a shot, there's a goal for England! A wonderful goal, and Duncan Edward jumps high in the air as he scored that magnificent goal from about 25 yards.
And England won by 2-1, with Derek Kevin of West Bromwich Albion hitting the winner. Indeed, in 1957, Duncan Edwards and Manchester United were on course for the League and Cup double. They were already league champions when they faced Aston Villa in the cup final. A final best remembered for the early collision between United's keeper Ray Wood and Villa's Irish international winger Peter McParland, with Wood carried off on a stretcher with a fractured cheekbone and then returning bravely to play on the wing. In those days, remember, there were no substitutes. and when McParland scored twice in 5 minutes for Villa, time for United seemed to be running out.
Free kick to Manchester United inside their own half, put forward short to right half Coleman, who loses the ball, and immediately Villa drive the ball down back into United's half and into touch about 5 yards inside the United half on this near touchline. Up it goes with only 9 minutes to go, and Coleman, the right half, holds onto the ball, dribbles past 2 men, stabs it across field to Berry away out now to Taylor. Taylor on the right wing tries to beat 2 men. He's got the ball, he's past 2 men, and he's cut right in. He's past the 3rd man. He's on the goal line, squares across the goal, and it's too slow. And Sewell is there as he made a despairing header the last time to save what looked like a possible United goal. So there he was, cool as a cucumber, to sweep the ball into touch, and the score remains Aston Villa 2, Manchester United 0. Now here comes Tom Taylor again trying to put that ball in, and again this time it's Jimmy Dixon, the Villa skipper, and inside left to turn it behind, and that is yet another corner. And on my card, a large number of C's here, 8 corners now for Manchester United, but 2 very much more essential facts. 2 goals scored by McParland on the other side of the card for Aston Villa. Here comes Berry's kick right across. The Villa goal, up go the heads, and this time Duncan Edwards and Tommy Taylor both crash into each other, and once again it's left to Doug Dale to nod it away behind, and Duncan Edwards is going to take the corner now from the far side of the field. He comes now across the goal. It's a spinner. Up goes Taylor. It's headed there. It's there! It's there! Right in off the post, and Taylor has scored number 1 for Manchester United. Right away over the clutching hands of Nigel Sims and the heads of the despairing Aston Villa backs. And now the game has really come to life, because I make it there is 7 minutes left to play. And in the 38th minute, Tommy Taylor has equalised from a Duncan Edwards corner, has added 1 for Manchester United. And Ray Wood is now going back in goal. The referee's just coming down to see this, because Jackie Blanchflower feels it now, and Manchester United have got to go on the attack.
To no avail, though. It was Villa's Cup by 2 goals to 1. But the following season, 1957-8, Manchester United were back in Europe again, their sights still on the Cup for Champions. They beat Shamrock Rovers, Dukla Prague, and then Red Star Belgrade. But then, on the way home from Belgrade on the 6th day of February 1958, disaster. Their plane crashed while taking off at a Munich airport that was white with snow. 8 players died: Roger Byrne, Jeff Bent, Eddie Coleman, Mark Jones, David Pegg, Tommy Taylor, and 15 days later, Duncan Edwards. Matt Busby was on the critical list for nearly a month. The country and the world of football mourned. But United, the club, still had a heartbeat. The FA approved special signings, and with the few survivors, goalkeeper Harry Gregg, big defender Bill Foulkes, and the young Bobby Charlton, and 1 or 2 reserves, they reached the semi-finals of the FA Cup. And then Old Trafford heard the news it was waiting for. Over the public address system came a familiar, gentle Scottish voice.
Ladies and gentlemen, I am speaking from my bed in the Iser Hospital, Munich, where I have been since the tragic accident of just over a month ago. You will be glad, I am sure, to know that the remaining players here and myself are now considered out of danger. And this can be attributed to the wonderful treatment and attention given us by Professor Maurer and his wonderful staff, who are with you today as guests of the club. I am obliged to the Empire News for giving me this opportunity to speak to you, for it is only this last 2 or 3 days that I have been able to be told anything about football. And I am delighted to hear of the success and united effort made by all at Old Trafford. Again, it's wonderful to hear that the club have reached the semi-final of the FA Cup. And I enclose my best wishes to everyone. And finally, may I just say, God bless you all.
Matt Busby, still weak but recovering miraculously from his terrible injuries. United, not surprisingly perhaps, lost to AC Milan in the semi-final of the European Cup, but borne along on a tide of emotion and hope, they beat Fulham by 5-3 in the semi-final of the FA Cup to reach Wembley for the second year running. And at the heart of it all was Bobby Charlton. Maturity was being thrust on him. In mid-April, he was at Hampden Park for the annual set-to between Scotland and England. He scored too, a classic Charlton volley from Finney centre from the left. Derek Kevin with 2 and Brian Douglas of Blackburn Rovers were the other scorers. England 4, Scotland 0. And in Scotland's side, for the first time, was a young man called Denis Law. 2 weeks later, Bobby Charlton was walking out at Wembley. Their cup-final opponents, Bolton Wanderers. And, as it proved, it was Bolton's day. Nat Lofthouse, the old lion of Vienna, put Bolton ahead in only the second minute. And then, in the second half, the moment that settled everything.
Holden, moving the ball inside. Stevens jumps over the ball, lets it go loose to Edwards. A through ball, a flick there to Stevens who shoots. And it's a great save by Greg. Or is it? Yes, it's there. 2 to Bolton. Lofthouse. Well, number 2 for Bolton that can be put down in the history books as a goal by Lofthouse, but really a very fine shot by Stevens, the inside forward. Greg saved the ball, tipped it up in the air, but not enough to put it over the bar. It came down behind him, and as he went for it, so he was charged by centre forward Lofthouse into the net, ball as well, and it makes number 2. And Greg now receiving attention in the Manchester United net, but I don't think really anybody can say that it was a foul by any degree at all. Unlucky to Greg, but certainly the ball flew out of his hands into the net, and it makes it number 2. I'm quite certain the Manchester United supporters will not hold that against that Lofthouse. A fair, square goal, a partial save by Greg, but not quite enough to push it over the bar at the first attempt. So 2-0 to Bolton. Would you just like to comment on that?
Yes, I think it's one of those things that can happen any time. It was a really fair shot by Stevens. I thought Eddie Greg did extraordinarily well. He pushed it up in the air, then saw it was going to drop this side of the bar, and as he leapt and grabbed it at the same time, a perfectly fair shoulder charge by Lofthouse with his right shoulder hit him just as he got the ball in his hands, and the ball shot out of his hands. There's no doubt to my mind that Greg was between Nat Lofthouse and the ball, and the way it shot out at right angles in the back of the net, there was no doubt that he had it in his hands, but couldn't hold it. Perfectly fair charge, shoulder to shoulder it was, not in the goalkeeper's stomach, not in the goalkeeper's back, but understandably, Greg, having turned his face on the ball, has been taken unawares, as it were, by that collision, and has suffered some hurt. He's now being pulled onto his feet. The trainers are rushing round, the Manchester team are round, but I would say splendid opportunist by a man who has led England for many times, and as far as I can remember, has never had a foul given against him. He's always charged meticulously, and that was a meticulous charge, and I think a very good goal.
Bolton's Cup by 2-0, though in later years, of course, that second goal wouldn't have been allowed. United's patchwork side had done well, but too many of the young men they lost at Munich were irreplaceable. None more so, as Bobby Charlton recalled many years later, than the mighty Duncan Edwards.
Well, Duncan Edwards, you can't lump him in with anybody else because he was so head and shoulders above everyone else. Even if I run my football schools now, little lads come to me at 7 or 8 year old, you know, and they said, "Bobby, can you tell us about Duncan Edwards?"
Do they really?
Yeah, the parents have obviously passed it on, that the great skill that Duncan Edwards had. I always remember Jimmy Murphy telling me, when I first arrived when I was 15, he was taking me to my digs, and he said, "Bobby," says, "I have got a player called Duncan Edwards who you'll be playing with." He says, and he's got a great right foot, a great left foot, strong in the air, magnificent in the tackle, reads the game brilliantly, has a tremendous shot. He says, and when I knock all the rough edges off him, I'm going to make him a decent player. And being a cocky little lad who'd come from the northeast and played for England schoolboys, I thought, well, there's nobody as good as that, he said. But it was a fact. It really was a fact. Had all those attributes that I've mentioned, but he had an enthusiasm to match and a passion, and he loved the game. And add to that strength and an ability to pass the ball 60, 70, 80 yards and pinpoint passes. It's a pity, really, that there's no great television footage of Duncan Edwards' great skill, because he was the best player, the best all-round player, without question, that I've ever seen.
As for Nat Lofthouse, well, no one should blame him for that controversial goal. And as he proved when the Soviet Union came to Wembley in October 1958, he could still fashion goals of the finest quality.
But England haven't finished yet. There's a beautiful Charlton header through to Douglas. Douglas now along the ground. Haynes hits it down to Finney. Finney cutting in. What's he going to do? Hits it. Oh, and it's a beautiful save by Belyoya. Beautiful save right down by that far post. Well, Russia completely overrun now. And up comes Shaw. And he's still got the ball. And he came up to tackle it. He turns it inside now. Lofthouse pressed it down. It's going to go through to Bryon Douglas. And the ball is taken off his toe, I think, for a corner. It must be a corner because it was lobbed over by a Russian foot off Douglas's toe. Corner it is down this near right-hand corner. Douglas takes it and now swinging across the goal. Up go the heads. And again Belyayev has to turn it way over the crossbar on the far side. Yet another corner doing that. Johnny Haynes racing out just like he did last time, but this time out comes Voynov to try and mark it. Anyhow, they still work the short corner. Finney through to Haynes. Haynes back through now. And it's come through to Slade. He shoots. Oh, he's just shot wide. Anyhow, it wouldn't have mattered because linesman's flag was up, but Lofthouse, Bryon Douglas were offside. England 4, Russia 0, and about a minute left to play. That was a quick goal kick attempt, but it didn't go outside the penalty area. Referee Geek said, come on, take it again. Belyayev now upfield, nodded forward by Savanian, breasted down by Clayton. Clayton, the right half, out to Bryon Douglas on the right wing. And he loses the ball, but High is there to put it across to Clayton. England defenders and forwards moving in close cooperation now. Lofthouse through everything, shoots, hits the goal! Oh, a beautiful goal by Dan Lofthouse. Turned right away round Nestle Olkin and hit it up in the top corner. And I think I'm right in saying that Lofthouse has now regained the honour of scoring the most goals for England.
That was Lofthouse's 30th and last goal for England. The final score, England 5, the Soviet Union 0, with Johnny Haynes contributing a hat-trick and Bobby Charlton popping in a penalty.